Revenge over a social media insult motivated last year's sensational slaying of a Happy Hill couple whose home exploded during a hail of gunfire. Mobile County District Judge Spiro Cherigatis found prosecutors had presented enough evidence to send a murder charge against one of the co-defendants to a grand jury. After a separate hearing, the judge also found probable cause for a grand jury to consider an unrelated murder case against that defendant, Patrick Lewis, and two other co-defendants. That shooting occurred about 7 months after the Happy Hill slaying. The first homicide occurred on Dr. Thomas Avenue on February 17, 2017. Mobile police detective Julius Nettles testified that two gunmen fired multiple rounds into the house, striking 62-year-old Tony Lewis twice, in the groin and the liver. The investigator said the house had 5 oxygen tanks, which he added likely sparked the blaze that killed 68-year-old Leila Lewis, destroyed the home, and severely damaged the neighboring house. The couple were the grandparents of rapper Honeycomb Brazy. Nettles testified that co-defendant Terrence Sanchez Watkins felt disrespected by a Facebook post made by a different mobile-born rapper, OMB Peasy, whose real name is LaParis Dade. The beef was with the rapper OMB Peasy, the officer testified. Nettles testified that Watkins and his co-defendants were unable to get Dade or Brazy, who have the same record label. They plotted to execute the grandparents or whoever was in the house at the time. Letitia Lang, the victim's niece, said she was relieved the case is moving forward. She said, quote, "They didn't deserve this at all." She went on to say that after the hearing, no one deserved to be treated like they was treated. So we just thank God and hopefully everything works out to which we can get a rightful conviction. Lang went on to say that she and other family members learned some new details during the hearing, but the most important thing, she added, is to hold the defendants accountable. 2 innocent elderly people that enjoyed life, enjoyed spending time with their grandkids, was taken away from here in a gruesome way, and they didn't deserve that, she said, end quote. Much of the evidence in this case comes from federal wiretaps that recorded 3 of the defendants who each ended up getting convicted of drug conspiracy charges. The recorded phone conversations are among Darren Dede Jamark Southern, Watkins, and Jamarcus Devontae Chambers. Officials said 21-year-old Lewis does not appear on the wiretaps, but the other 3 referenced him repeatedly, and he testified that Chambers told investigators that he drove the vehicle to the victim's home. In addition, officials said investigators used cell phone data to pinpoint Lewis's location about a half a mile away from the crime scene, less than an hour before the shooting, when the defendants were alleged to have gotten guns in the nearby Plateau community. Officials testified that police stopped Lewis a few months later and recovered a cell phone matching the one that was near the crime scene in February. During cross-examination, defense attorney James Byrd suggested that prosecutors do not have strong evidence tying his client to the crime. He said the location of the evidence shows only that his client's cell phone was near the crime scene. He said nothing puts Lewis there except the word of his co-defendants. "I haven't heard the recorded phone calls, obviously. That would be important," he said outside the courtroom. "But presently, it appears that all they have is other criminals trying to say my client is the bad guy." Nettles said the wiretaps are compelling and overwhelming, and that investigators have been able to independently corroborate much of what the defendants said. For instance, he testified they discussed plans to go to a dealership to get vehicles for the shooting. Sure enough, they did get vehicles at that dealership. To hear this in real time is disgusting. Honestly, when you listen to those phone calls, it's ridiculous, he said. Chambers and Watkins remains in federal custody and have not yet been arraigned on the murder charges. The same is true for Southern, who last year admitted to running the largest drug distribution network in Mobile in recent memory. Prosecutors contend that although he was not present for the shooting, he aided and abetted it. Burr said he believes prosecutors will have challenges getting same evidence admitted in state court and speculated that the U.S. Attorney's Office may pursue federal charges. I would not be surprised if the double homicide case goes to federal court.